in business and economics. Is it right?
That is, yes, that will be the last one. Now we have the second one on gamification elements.
Oh, gamification. Where is the gamification? It's not in my session yet.
It had just been added to this session.
Okay. Okay, gamification. Okay. Yes. Please present Lee Trung Kian and Nguyen Sabi. So please present, and your time is 10 minutes for presentation and 10 minutes for discussion. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Claudia and Dr. Nam. Sorry for the confusion because another author offered me to exchange the panel for their slots. So the third paper has already been presented in another room, and I will replace that paper. So I'm Lei Chung Kian, and I will be presenting gamification elements and their potential influence on employee motivation. So gamification is, my apologies in advance, because you will be hit with walls of text, because this is a very new research area, especially in the business setting. Let's begin with the main concepts. So gamification is the process of applying gaming elements in non-game contexts. Simply put, it is to make something not a game interesting. For example, when you put in star points for the students to encourage them to engage with the class, that could be a game element of a scoring system to promote their performance. So in gamification studies, basic game elements can include points, as I mentioned, badges, rewards, missions, challenges, and competition. Interestingly, most basic game elements can attract human psychology, especially motivation and engagement, such as elements like accomplishment, improvement, competition, ownership, and socialization. Researches on adaptation of gamification are gaining increasing popularity, which foresees a potential future of widespread usage in organizations and businesses. Therefore, it is important that a systematic approach to the process of gamification should be applied in different contexts, particularly in businesses. So originally, gamification has been researched for about a decade or so, and mostly it is applied to e-learning and health, and not many of them are applicable in businesses. And that is our aim for the research to apply gamification in business environments. So let me give you an example, which is China's social credit system. So China has implemented a system of grading and scoring their citizens based on their behaviors, such as criminal history, behaviors at work, or just simply posting positively about China online. And those scores will be recorded and assessed to basically evaluate a person's social behavior. If they have a high score, they will have a lot of benefits, such as travel with discounts, or more discount at stores, for example. And if they have a very low score, they might even get their electricity cut, or they might have no water for the month, which shows the power of gamification when applied in a social setting. here we can see that they have facial recognition and big data to apply to their phones that they can just see the scores of everyone on the screen. Very simple and very scary, in my opinion. So, gamification elements can be a catalyst to enhance employee motivation because generally the factor of psychology is the main focus when dealing with both motivation and gamification. And this psychological stimuli can be the moderator for the relationship between the two. Mental arousals at work, such as feelings of enjoyment, dedication, immersion, or challenge, and so on, are also the usual observed results when playing games. And this is explained that individual motivations reflected from games are similar to real-life drives for behavior. And hence, the appeal of games comes from the attention attraction, engagement induce, and interest satisfaction. And therefore, game elements, when adopted in organizations and businesses, could be highly beneficial for employee motivation and engagement. There are many benefits of using gamification for employees' motivation purposes. And I will not go into deep on this, but basically they can make work more engaging, immersive, and they can have a system which validates and recognize employees' contribution to the company and evaluation for performance management. And also, gamification can make routine activities become more interesting, while complex tasks can be simplified with clear objectives and instructions. For example, employees can get, let's say, more coffee time, more break time, if they can get their KPI in time, for example, or get more day off if they have done overtime in the month. It is also very good for observation or supervision because gamification offers an interface that is very friendly for both employees and employers to watch their work status and progress through task trackers and leaderboards and see how well they perform at work. So our research questions are, what are the most important gamification elements used in research models and frameworks for businesses? What aspects of motivation can be affected from gamification elements in business environments? And what framework can managers use to build and apply gamification for motivation purposes at work? So we really focus on the business side of gamification. And our method is to use a literature review. We do intensive research on definitions, purpose, and frameworks of gamification, game elements, and especially those that could induce engagement and motivation. We also research on popular theories of motivation, definitions of different types of motivations like intrinsic motivation, extrinsic, and how to influence intrinsic motivation at work. And we also focus mainly on models and frameworks that describes how gamification can impact user engagement, motivation, and performance. And we exclude others. For our findings, we found a final number of 22 studies, which includes very clear models and framework to the paper. This is the literature, and most noticeable gamification elements, we adapt them from the MDP framework, and we divide them to three main categories. The first one is mechanics. Mechanics are basic game elements like points and score, which I mentioned before, that can make a game. And dynamics are the relationships between the design's mechanics and the user's experience that come across through their interaction with the game mechanics. And finally, is aesthetics, which is the simply put our users' emotions through the gamification tool. In the MDE framework, they are mechanics, dynamics, and experience. But we feel that it is more appropriate to use aesthetics because many sub-elements that I will explain later. So for mechanics and dynamics, there are many usual elements that you can see, like points, leaderboards, ranking, achievements, goals, etc. And for dynamics, we have rules, missions, unlockables, rewards, teamwork, even competition. But I would like to focus a little bit more on aesthetics in this presentation because this is usually overlooked by researchers and even designers because visual sound effects or avatar actually have a significant impact on users' experience in gamification process. For example, UX and UI are user experience and user interface. With better and more simple user interface, the user of gamification process can be more engaged in the actual mechanics and dynamics and not have to worry about which button they have to click or which room they have to join in, for example. And it would be a lot easier for the user experience overall. So for the discussion, we found that all motivation theories have common grounds with the design of games and gamification tools, which trigger humans' subconscious drives to action and behavioral change. So motivation and engagement is also the main focus when when researchers study on gamification, and that is the logic behind why we found that researchers have put many psychological theories on motivation to explain how gamification motivates people. For example, self-determination theories by Desi and Ryan claim that people have three basic psychological needs, which are autonomy, competence, and relatedness. These are three factors that encourage humans to move towards growth, which can be found in gaming effects. Or Locke's goal-setting theories, a very popular motivation theory, emphasizes on the impact of setting goals for one's future job performance, which suggests that people with specific and challenging goals perform better and more determined than those who set approachable goals, which is, of course, one of the main visible elements of gamification, which is missions and goals. Or Skinner's operant conditioning theory, also another very famous motivation theory, states that one behaves according to the consequences of their work, and these behaviors and actions can be trained or can be impacted by reinforcement tools. For example, when an employee gains a point due to their work, they might be more motivated to gain more points after doing more work. And these reinforcement tools is the main approach to engage users and possibly induce certain behaviors factors through gamification tools. There are many others motivation theories, but yeah, I would leave it at that, and you can have further question if you would like. These are the table that shows most noticeable gamification elements from the literature review and their impacts on motivation factors, which are a lot. So we propose a framework which is in a more digestible form, which shows that three main categories of motivating factors can be found in this potential framework, which are self-determination, personal development, and competence. The framework shows that the gamification elements of mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics can have an impact on a strong impact on motivation factors, which are below. These are the definition of those motivation factors, which are very common and similar to any other motivation theories. For example, self-determination is how a person defines oneself, how he sees himself, understanding his own characteristics, strengths, capabilities, etc. And we argue that gamification elements can have an impact and guide self-determination aspect of a person through points and achievements. Or personal development. Personal development is one of the higher needs in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is also mentioned in as a true intrinsic motivation factor. Personal development can be seen or captured by their progress through work, and they can see themselves getting better after working or developing through time. And competence is the ability of mastery and being effective or proficient in dealing with their environment, or let's say people will have to develop skills in order to succeed. They will have to be more precise and effective to complete their task, and just not working harder, it's working better. And these include many sub-factors which are further explained in the paper. And in conclusion,
5 minutes again, because actually it's more than 10 minutes, yeah?
sorry,
Okay,
sorry,
fine.
yeah,
Okay.
I'll conclude fast.
Okay.
So gamification elements of relationship with motivation can be explained through motivation theories and psychological needs. And the proposed framework in the paper could be used for future research on gamification and motivation in a business setting. And gamification is not for fun, not just for fun. It can serve as a powerful tool for enhancing engagement and motivation. And it could be the key to future management in business. Thank you. Feel free to have any questions.
Thank you. So, your paper's topic, gamification elements and their potential influence on employee motivation. A little review of models. You are Trungkin?
Yes.
Okay. So I call you Kian. Okay, and Nguyen dan Nguyen. Okay, sorry, my spelling, yeah. Okay, thank you for very good and interesting presentation for your papers. Yeah, gamification is very popular now also in Indonesia, especially in our training. So this is your research for employee motivation. Yeah. So I hope that next maybe for training also. Yeah, for the a member that want to get a training, yeah, this is also a very good research for gamification, how they impact also to our training. Okay, so we are moving to our discussion session. Dr. Nam, do you have any comments or questions, please?
Thank you, Dr. Kurnia.
Yes, Dr. Nam?
There's an echo. Yeah. So,
Kian, can you slide your slides to move to your the pages one. Dr. Nam? Hello, Dr. Nam?
okay. Thank you, Dr. Kurnia. I totally agree with you that it is very interesting paper. Now
Hello, Dr. Nam.
Can you hear me?
Have you any question
Oh yes.
or comment?
Can you hear me? Hello.
Okay, Kian, and about the model concept. Okay, Dr. Nam. Okay.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. I totally agree with you that there is very interesting paper on gamification. Now I'm a little bit curious about how. Okay. I have some comments. Yeah. Based on your literature review, do you have any propositions about because in your, yes, you have a model of the relationships between gamifications elements and motivation factors, and I would like to know that whether you have any propositions because you do not include any propositions on about the relationships between gamifications elements and motivation factors. And I'm interested in how we can test this this model and how we can know that which elements in this model, which gamification elements in this model have the largest effects on motivation factors, so that you can show the business that okay, you should focus on some specific gamification elements, not all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Kunia.
Yeah, thank you very much for your comments.
Yeah.
Sorry I didn't make it clear before, but this is a proposed framework and not a model. It is a framework for further research, and it serves as a systematic approach for future research, and this is not a model, not yet. And of course, in the future, we will test quantitatively and possibly qualitatively on each and every one of the elements, factors and subfactors. But this is a potential framework for research and not a model, not just yet.
Dr. Nam?
Okay, you can call it a framework or model or whatever, but theoretically, it can help you to have an idea about the possible relationships. Okay, and now another thing that I would would like you to discuss more about your suggestions for applying your research finding to practice. Like, okay, you can go to a company and you tell the manager there that okay, you should do this and you should do that. So, which gamification elements you should suggest first? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Most gamification services only focus on mechanics and dynamics. So, for example, points, badges, secrets, which are very basic gaming elements for gamification. But I would suggest that you should also focus on aesthetics. For example, visual and sound effects. Whenever you gain an experience, you level up or you gain anything in the game. There should be indicators, visual and audio indicators for that. Also, like UX and UI, which are user experience and user interface, should be simple, should be attractive. For example, like Zoom meetings, their interface is a bit complicated, and sometimes we are confused on how to use it. So they could make it a little more simple or more attractive for us to use, and then that would be my suggestions. And gamification is gamification and its design is very complicated. And we need a very big resource and investment to create a good gamification experience. So I would suggest all three of the gamification elements in the model framework.
Okay, thank you, Kian. Thank you, Dr. Nam. Still have any question or comments? Okay. Kian, for me, research is start with the backgrounds and problems. So please explain to me, what is your background to do the research and what's the problem? Why you do the research?
Yeah, thank you for your question. It's very interesting that gamification research mainly focus on learning. They want to make learning and training more interesting. But I think that gamification can be adapted as a tool in management, human resource management. So I would like to research on business settings and business environments and how gamification can have an impact in this particular environment. And this is our main focus for the paper. And also, research on gamification lack a systematic approach and lack a strong framework to do research on. And that is why we work on this paper to create and propose a potential framework for further research or design of gamification in the future.
Okay, so please put on your papers about the backgrounds and the problems, based on your why you do the research. Your paper is rich with the literature study, but please add like some explanation about the backgrounds, more borders, and then what is the problem or the problem that you have to make this research. So this is a very good start if you explain in before you start with the reach of literature review. That's very important also for your papers.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Any question from the floors before we start for papers? or the third papers in session. Any question from the floors, please? Okay, thank you very much, Kian, for a very good presentation, and I hope that your papers is not only the frameworks but also the models, yeah, and continue with the very good research and have completely in the findings of your research. Thank you very much. Very interesting and very good presentation.